Introducing the first ever Grand Highlander, a mid-size SUV with the ideal combination of space, performance, style, and advanced tech. The roomy Grand Highlander boasts 3 spacious rows with available seating for up to 8. Its available 362 horsepower hybrid max powertrain, unlimited and platinum trims, delivers the power, acceleration, and efficiency so your family can take on any adventure. There's even a standard digital key, a panoramic view mirror, and a 12.3-inch multimedia touchscreen, so you always arrive on time. Live life grander in the first ever Toyota Grand Highlander. Learn more at toyota.com/Grand Highlander.
Whether you're hosting game day or movie night, DiGiorno knows that planning a watch party on a budget isn't easy. You need the perfect setting, the perfect squad, and the perfect eats. Luckily, you're a game time mastermind, and you know that grabbing DiGiorno Classic Crust Pizza can bring home a W because it's packed with half a pound of cheese, sauce, and other toppings and comes at an incredible price. Make the game-winning call and grab a DiGiorno Classic Crust Pizza from the grocery store today. It's not delivery, it's DiGiorno.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Dynasty Podcast with Borg, Betz, and a Baller.
Welcome in. It's 2024 here on the Fantasy Footballers Dynasty Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Borganoni, and I'm joined by Matthew Betz and Dynasty champion Mike Wright.
It is. That is true, and you are correct. It's 2024, but only here on our podcast.
Nowhere else in the world.
The way it was phrased was it's 2024 here on this podcast.
Like, officially, the calendars, the Gregorian calendar, the Mayan calendars, they officially changed once those people heard this podcast?
Yeah. No,
Makes sense.
We led the way. You're welcome, world.
Yeah, they said that we wouldn't continue a podcast in 2024. The world wouldn't continue, but here we are.
But we're here. Also, I'm sorry to step all over your big announcement of my championship. So we can, if you want to get back to that, that's fine.
We're gonna get into Mike's championship, which I was sitting thinking about this. You know, this is a big podcast, Mike. You've helped grow a fairly large fantasy football podcast.
Yeah, you guys have helped too. It's not just me.
Yeah. No, I'm saying from the very beginning, laid some groundwork.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And then you're a part of some leagues that a lot of people know about. Like the League of Record is a very famous league. The Dynasty League is pretty famous. In fact, I was just thinking about it more and more. I was like, Mike, you might have just won the most important Dynasty League in the world.
Quite possibly. But that's also related to I didn't win the other one. And they're only important when you win.
I know. I'm trying to bury the lead that I was your co-manager on the other team and we didn't win.
Yeah, don't talk about that. Don't worry about that.
Moving on.
We don't talk about that. Betsy, how did your Dynasty Championships go?
Good, man. Took home one of the two that I was able to get. Took home the home league. Was not Dynasty, but the home league with a bunch of the high school friends. That's always good.
That's still great. The home league.
Remind them that they suck.
Is that your most important one, Betz?
Oh, yes. Whenever you can dunk on your lifelong friends, that's what this game is all about. So, yeah, it was good, man. How about you?
I don't really need to talk about that.
On to 2024.
Did Christian McCaffrey hurt his calf or what?
Christian McCaffrey. I mean, immediately when Deebo got the first touchdown, you kind of knew it was over for McCaffrey. And then, Elijah Mitchell getting on the field.
It wasn't when the stupid Manders were like, would you like the ball in the red zone? Okay, here. It's just here. You want another shot at a touchdown? Here. Christian McCaffrey, score a touchdown. We're trying to let you do it.
I feel like they definitely had some money on him, and then the fact that Elijah Mitchell, is like, okay, they're mixing him in. Okay, they're giving him the whole drive. Oh, he's scoring the touchdown. Okay, well, so much for that. But if you got to your Dynasty Championship, if you got a win, we're excited. We have some awesome stuff coming out for 2024. We have already started churning the wheels towards the Dynasty Pass, which will be coming out very, very soon. I know, Mike, prospect evaluation, you are already getting going.
Yeah, I cannot wait to get that going over on the Main Footballers show. We're still finishing out for the, we'll call them the scoundrels of Week 18 who insist on playing through, so they'll be playing nasty boys, like Melvin Gordon in their championship. Enjoy. But after that, then it is right into the tape, hashtag tape grinders. So and it's always it's so much fun to get really introduced to these players, become familiar with their game, and then, start ranking guys, getting excited for free agency and then the NFL draft.
Yeah, so that'll be coming out Super Bowl Sunday. So really, we guys, a month and a half, and we're already there. So a lot of good stuff. TheFantasyFootballers.com. We're still putting out content. And I thought it would be best to start the show with a little press conference.
You talking to me?
Wow, the interview drop.
We are reporting live, Betz and I, as a couple of esteemed beat reporters from the Footballers HQ, and we're going to interview somebody who won a Dynasty championship. And I thought it would be appropriate if we were to interview the FF Hitman here, because, Mike, you have fallen short multiple times in your championship. How does it feel to win the big one in the inaugural year of the Fantasy Footballers Dynasty podcast?
It feels even better than I thought it would. The Dynasty, this league opened the first 2 years. I was in the title game, came in second place, realized that it was not going to happen again the next year, so I had to tear it all down. And having a squad that you think should compete, like when you're looking at it before the season starts, and you make, all Dynasty players would kind of make that decision of, maybe I need to make a trade here or there, but this is a good base roster that I should be able to easily make the playoffs and have a chance. And I had that for multiple years, and the team just kept falling on its face in the worst possible moments. A lot of it, if you followed the show at all, my struggles of my quarterback position of playing Kirk Cousins every single time you should not play him, and then going to a different quarterback, and then that's not their week. That was actually the Cousins week, but we figured it all out. So it was very exciting. So all of those who got your first Dynasty championship out there, it feels good.
Mike, was this the league where you had to play Jared Goff after Joe Flacco went bonkers on Thursday?
That is, in fact, that league, yes.
Okay. Hey, it all worked out.
Yeah,
that sounds very stressful. What part of the championship weekend was the most stressful or exhilarating for you?
It's a good question. The most exhilarating was a 92-yard tutty from Mr. CeeDee Lamb on a Saturday night Island game, and I was freaking out. It was so amazing. The stressful was, so Andy was forced into playing, Mostert was out, and so Andy was forced into playing a real nasty boy, and he played Darius Slayton, who I was thrilled about until there was a 80-yard touchdown or whatever that was. And then the real freak out was when Red Zone went back to the Bucs game because Baker was trying to come back. And it's just, you don't know if it's good or bad, and it's Baker launching the ball into the end zone and someone coming down with a touchdown. I thought, oh no, if this is Mike Evans, I'm in big, big, big trouble. But it was not Mike Evans. So those were kind of the best and the worst moments.
Next question here. This is Dave from the Sun Sentinel Reporter.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah, which moves from this offseason and the trade deadline prepared you the most for your championship?
So the CeeDee Lamb trade was ginormous. Even if you had missed that, I traded for CeeDee Lamb before the season started, and I paid at the time a lot. It was 2 firsts in 2024, so for this rookie draft, Michael Pittman, who turned into being awesome, especially when Anthony Richardson was not playing, and Quentin Johnston, who was an up-and-coming, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed rookie who everyone was very excited about because he got drafted by the Los Angeles Chargers and he forever gets to play with Justin Herbert. So I traded all those guys for just CeeDee Lamb because I knew I needed a piece, and that was the best move. And then I did trade. It's weird, because like the fluctuation of spike weeks and then terrible games. I traded Najee and a second for Derrick Henry because at that time Najee was not doing anything, and then Najee started to come on. Derrick Henry had a couple huge games, which I'm sure I haven't done point tracking because I don't care because I won. I don't need to go feel that pain. The point tracking of, well, if I had just kept Najee, would I end up winning? And there's a strong chance I might have. So I just threw a second rounder and the future of Najee away for now. I get to freak out about Derrick Henry. But those were kind of like the big moves that I made this year.
Hey, Mike. Yeah, this is Bill from the Baltimore Sun.
Hey,
it sounds
Bill.
like CeeDee Lamb was your most valuable asset this year, wide receiver 1 in fantasy.
Yes.
Shout out to him. How about any unsung heroes, guys you weren't counting on but really stepped up for you? Maybe a nasty boy or two on the squad?
Oh, I mean, if you want to, the nastiest of nasty boys was Mr. Joe Flacco, where I started the year with Kirk Cousins and Joe Burrow, lost them both to season-ending injury. Thankfully, when Kirk Cousins went down, someone offered me a trade for I traded Kirk Cousins and Wan'Dale Robinson for Jared Goff, and it was, I better do this. I'm going to need to have a backup quarterback because who knows? Like 2 weeks later, Joe Burrow goes down, and it was, holy crap, I can't believe I traded for Jared Goff because otherwise I'm toast. And then it's Dynasty. There's no backup quarterbacks available. And then a whisper came in from Blurbland. The Cleveland Browns are working out Joe Flacco and may sign him to the practice squad. I signed him immediately, just in case. And I played him in the semis, and I won because I played Joe Flacco. If I had played Jared Goff that week, I would have lost. So from the waiver wire into a playoff hero for me, even though I bailed on Joe championship weekend. I'm sorry, Joe. Forgive me. But, I mean, that's about as nasty as it gets. A waiver wire quarterback winning you the week in the semis.
All right, couple more questions here. This is Randolph. I'm here from the Pony Express Dispatch.
Yeah. What? Pony Express?
Got to. Shout out to the Pony Express.
Yeah.
Speaking to the rest of your Dynasty League, do you have any parting thoughts for the rest of these losers?
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, be afraid. Be very, very afraid. Because my core now is Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Garrett Wilson, and Zay Flowers. Those are my 4 wide receiver go-to guys, and Kenneth Walker is in that mix as well. So they should be nervous. If I can figure out running back 2 in next year, the Soldier 76ers will be back in play for a repeat title.
Love that. What a name, by the way. 76ers. Great basketball team as well.
It's a I was really, really into Overwatch at the time, and there was a guy named Soldier 76.
Fair enough.
Still is, but he was one of my main characters.
So this team is set up, you would say, for a repeat? Are we trying to go back-to-back here? Run it back with some of the vets?
Hopefully. I have a third. I think I have a third in 24, so I don't have any picks.
Oh, you're definitely going for it.
Running back 2 is got to figure that out, but I have some, like Ty Chandler. Maybe he keeps the Minnesota job. There's some other options out there. But 2025, I have 2 firsts. So if I can figure this thing out in 24, I can still reload in 2025. That's what I'm saying. The league should be pretty nervous here about a true dynasty run about to happen.
Very, very nice.
No more questions.
I'm not going to lie. That went pretty well. And I've never had one person get to talk about their team more than like 5 seconds on the show. So Mike was probably like cringing a little bit like, we don't do this. But for future reference,
I don't know how many people actually care, but
I think people care because they hear you talk about stuff, especially that CD trade. That was probably one of the pinnacle moments for you and for just people in general when they look back over the year and just see like, hey, this move I made, you gave up a ton, but wide receiver 1 is pretty awesome. So
also, I'll do a special shout out to another nasty boy who we talked about on this podcast, Jake Ferguson. Like I picked him up on the waiver wire sometime in the off season, and I admittedly, after they drafted Luke Schoonmaker, I thought Schoonmaker would end up being the starter, but then he got hurt, and it was, well, this job is wide open. So pick up Ferguson, who played several weeks for me. And now, I mean, we'll get into all that, but it's like Jake Ferguson's probably a top 10 fantasy or dynasty tight end right now. And I got him, I got Evan Engram, I got Trey McBride, I got Juwan Johnson. Like, I have so many startable tight ends that, I mean, who knows? If my league is listening, I'm open for trades at the tight end position, and I know that your tight ends stink.
It is wild when you look at ambiguous situations because you're right. It was Schoonmaker, Peyton Hendershot, Schultz was there the year before. So
Right.
It's like there was no reason to be incredibly bullish on 2023 being a Jake Ferguson year. And and then they draft somebody. So you shoot your shot. You hope that it shakes out in ambiguous situations. We'll be talking about those this offseason because we have free agency. But man, after the draft, there's going to be a bunch of ambiguous situations where you just kind of shoot your shot. And we'll talk about some of those players. So on today's show, we're going to be talking about our postseason Dynasty Awards, looking at a couple of different awards that the three of us will hash out and say, hey, we think this player did a lot for your team. Here's a player that lost a ton of value over the course of the season. So let's get into it.
The Fantasy Footballers versus the world.
What?
That's my last chance. I'm going to say this right now. My last chance to use a drop that we used a long time that Mike, you made 2015.
That would have been a segment in the very first year of the show when the podcast was just me and Andy.
So the reason why is because I'm making a vow for 2024. We're going to get some hot Dynasty drops for this show.
Hey, you let me know. Let me know what you need, and I come through.
Yeah, it's on me. But it was my last chance to dig through the archives and find a really...
That is digging deep there.
So, we will talk about a couple of different Dynasty Awards. I do want to give a recap because even at midseason, the things that we talked about on the show, I think Jason was on that one, our midseason awards. It's wild in Dynasty, in redraft, like things change so much from our perspective of what we banked on. So in week 10, we did some midseason Dynasty Awards. And the Dynasty gold nugget of the first half, we said was
These are
Zach
hilarious.
Moss.
Well, he could, because
Which
he was. Like, you can't take that away from him. What he did was incredible.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, all of these awards make total sense at the time. It's more of pointing out the fact that it feels so sure in the moment when you're just mentioning a player and saying, here's what they've done so far. And then moving forward to the second half, things change. Like, same thing. I don't think any of us would have said David Njoku is going to be the tight end one rest of season.
Right.
Especially with changing quarterbacks and everything else. If I told you, hey, by the way, for the last 5 weeks of the season, the Browns are going to have Joe Flacco off the couch. Like, nobody would have said this is tight end one. So other
taking
awards,
naps during the game.
I respect that so much.
Oh, I do
What a
too.
move.
It was an incredible moment.
Did you see
Joe
the
Flacco is so good, man. I love it.
the post game interview where he was just like, "Yeah, I mean, it's just we
It's
weren't
like,
scoring."
No, I didn't. He did the most old man thing ever. Was, hey, are you asleep? When you're clearly asleep, and you go, no.
Oh
I'm
man,
not
It's just
sleeping,
resting
you're
my
sleeping.
eyes.
just taking a nap.
Just resting my eyes.
Let me give you a couple other awards that we talked about in midseason. Just how much. So most disappointing youngin, we said Dameon Pierce, and
Dude,
he's
is he
fallen
toast?
off the map. Yeah, I mean, we'll talk
think
about
so.
the Texans because their cap situation's great. It's a team that I think free agents will want to, and they can also just keep rolling with this thing. Draft another player. They don't have a first round pick, but if they pick somebody on day 2, we got to talk about it. So,
Yeah.
the fantasy quarterback, I called it the Mr. Magoo. You just kind of fall into fantasy points, was Josh Dobbs.
That's such a good name.
I mean, and I said that award was presented by Blake Bortles because that's exactly what he did. Just Magooed into stuff.
Yeah, and as fast as he was here, that's how fast he was gone.
Right. Like Josh Dobbs, when he was with the Vikings, those first, 2 or 3 weeks, we're like, he's their guy.
Two-ish, yeah.
I mean, did it seem like he was going to be the guy the rest of the season?
It seemed like he was magooing his way into just the way that like Mullins did too. I mean, they just had different approaches of full DGAF. And I mean, when you go full, like I think that bomb can explode in your face at any moment.
Last two awards we talked about at midseason, the running back Houdini award, meaning where did you go? Miles Sanders.
Whoops.
I mean, they paid this guy a lot of money to just chill.
Yeah. Whoops.
But hey,
that's wild.
We're going to get him 50 catches this year, Kyle. 50.
What did he end up with? Look that up, Betz. Because
I'll check.
Because early in the season, it looked like they were going to make good on their promise. I know he got hurt, but yeah, that is one of the wilder stories.
We're at 41 targets, 27 receptions.
Okay, so we need a
this weekend.
Big week 18 against the Bucs.
But the first month of the season, he was on pace for 64 catches.
Yeah.
And then it all fell apart.
And then the last award, which another one of those that midseason, this looked like a league winner, the Old Man Strength Award, we gave it to Adam Thielen, who...
Let it be a lesson, because it's the same lesson we have every single time of these guys who are that age for NFL standards. Adam Thielen's not an old man, but he's an old man in the NFL. They can run really hot for like the first half of the year. And I think that strategically the best thing to do is cash out or just be prepared to not count on them for the second half, because it happens too much where they're fresh because they've had the offseason to rest their bodies. But you can't do NFL stuff at that age versus a kid who's like 25 and you're in your 30s. Get out of here.
Adam Thielen, sixth wide receiver in NFL history to catch 100-plus balls as a 33-year-old or older.
There you go.
I feel like that tells me that I could have a year, I don't know, my 60s, where I start off hot. I am just the man. And, I'm 65 years old, and then my family's going to come to me and be like, hey, we know you, we know where you're trending, you're too old. But it gives me some hope that I'm going to like have a really good year in my 60s.
Because he had a good year in his 30s?
Because he did. Because he walked so I could run, is what I'm hearing. Let's take a quick break, and we'll get to our awards.
You need a vehicle that can meet your family's needs, and Toyota has you covered. Introducing the first ever Grand Highlander, a midsize SUV with the ideal combination of space, performance, style, and advanced tech. The roomy Grand Highlander never makes you choose between passengers and cargo. You can fit both with ease. With 3 spacious rows and available seating for up to 8, and legroom that makes even long trips comfortable. With Grand Highlander's available 362 horsepower hybrid max powertrain unlimited and platinum trims, you can be confident you have the power, acceleration, and efficiency needed for almost any adventure your family can cook up. And you'll get where you're going in style with a modern, spacious cabin that's perfect for both playdates and date nights. Impressive tech upgrades take the new Grand Highlander to the next level, including a standard digital key, an available panoramic view mirror, and a 12.3-inch multimedia touchscreen. Don't just live life grander in the first ever Toyota Grand Highlander. Learn more at toyota.com/Grand Highlander.
Whether you're cheering on your favorite team or hosting a movie night, DiGiorno knows planning a winning watch party on a budget isn't easy. You need the perfect setting, the perfect squad, the perfect eats, and the perfect plan to keep everyone pumped all night long. So why would you fumble the play by ordering delivery? The wait times, the fees, the cold food, it can't outdo the delicious fresh-baked taste of DiGiorno Classic Crust Pizza, especially on game night. No, you need to draw up the perfect plan. Luckily, you're a game time mastermind, and you know that grabbing a DiGiorno Classic Crust Pizza is one call that brings home a W. With half a pound of cheese, sauce, and other toppings at an incredible price, it's your game day MVP, most valuable pizza. So are you ready for a big W at your next watch party? Don't take any chances. Make the right call and grab a DiGiorno Classic Crust Pizza from the grocery store today. It's not delivery, it's DiGiorno.
First award we're going to talk about is the Dynasty MVP award. And there's lots of different ways to interpret this. Like you could just say, oh, it's Christian McCaffrey. But when you factor in age, promise, based on draft capital, what you thought coming into the year, and production. Let's factor all of those. And then I tailored it to one of the leagues that I'm actually in. I looked at the champion. I'm like, wow, this player actually carried your team. So, Betz, I will let you go first. Who is the Dynasty MVP for 2023?
Let's think back to July, August. Training camp's open. We get some actual footage on our Twitter timelines, X, of these players in shorts, helmets, and pads. And there's Baker Mayfield overthrowing his tight end every pass. Oh, here comes Kyle Trask. Oh, that one got overthrown too. We all were laughing at the Bucs, making fun of them. How can you roll out one of these two guys? And we thought it was going to be Kyle Trask, remember, in July. And then in August, people kind of started to figure out, like, oh, they're going to go with Baker. And no one was excited about anyone on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Mike Evans finishes as the wide receiver 4.5 PPR at 30 years old, 76 catches, over 1,200 yards, 13 touchdowns. If you had him in Dynasty, his trade value was 0. I mean, you literally were like, man, yes. I just hope I'm getting wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3, flex type numbers from this guy this year. I'd be happy with a wide receiver 30 finish. Let's just hope for that, right? No one saw this coming, but man, Mike Evans, if you had him, so consistent, so good. So many spike weeks, too, to kind of help give you that oomph in your lineup to win a week. He was being drafted in redraft leagues as the wide receiver 30. Like I said, finishes as the wide receiver 4. So Mike Evans, to me, is a Dynasty MVP.
It's probably in the history of footballers, it's one of the best my guy calls. I mean, Andy's call was amazing. And there were signs in the preseason that they just had something working together. Now, 13 touchdowns, I don't think anybody saw that coming. But yeah, I feel like Baker, it's really hard to get a good read because there's like what the media portrays Baker as is what he's been since he's been in the league. And, even last year with the Rams and the years before, like there were good moments. There were good moments as a deep ball passer, and it's kind of connected. So I don't know. Like, Mike, did you see Mike Evans giving still a wide receiver 1 season? I mean, he's wide receiver 3 right now, right?
No, I did not forecast that. That Andy nailed that one. And it was the thing that's the most surprising to me, honestly. It's not that Evans still had it at 30, because Evans to me is a Hall of Fame bound wide receiver. There's always a fun argument that comes up from time to time of me and Jason talking about, is Mike Evans a first ballot Hall of Fame wide receiver? It's fun now that, because the argument has shifted totally from, will Mike Evans get to the Hall of Fame? And now I get to keep pushing my agenda of, no, I think he's a first ballot guy. The only wide receiver ever to have 1,000 yards each and every one of his years. But the really surprising thing was how it came at the expense of everybody. Well, I mean, Rachaad White was great, but like Chris Godwin, I think the fantasy community was expecting Chris Godwin will have a bounce back. It's his second year recovering from the ACL injury. When he was back last year, it was like, why is this guy on a football field? This doesn't match the timeline that I'm used to. But the fact that Mike Evans was the entirety of the passing offense was so wild for a 30-year-old who I think that Mike Evans is going to have another great year. We don't know where he will be, but he still has it, and he's going to have his pick of destination. I mean, I imagine that, 30 out of 32 NFL teams would be clamoring to get Mike Evans onto the roster?
For sure. And the thing about Evans is even when he would have a down game, you never said like, oh, he's just lost it. You just go, okay,
right.
I'm going to play him again next week.
Yeah, it's part of the variance.
Yeah, and you know that's happening. So, yeah, Mike Evans is a great pick. Mike, I will let you go next. Dynasty MVP.
Right. I think it's Sam LaPorta, rookie tight end, who, Kyle, is this really accurate? He is the tight end 1?
Correct.
So a rookie tight end for in a world where that is impossible. Like rookie tight ends, if they come in and they give you a top 10 season, you're super happy about it because you feel like, oh, I've got a guy for the future. He's going to improve. No, but Sam LaPorta immediately to tight end 1, 6 games with over 15 fantasy points, tied for the most receptions ever from a rookie tight end. and you got him in the second round of rookie drafts, he will. Look, I love Trey McBride. I'm sure we'll talk about him at some point today, but it's hard to argue that Sam LaPorta is not the number one dynasty tight end. From the second round pick to jumping Mark Andrews to surpassing Travis Kelce, all of these guys, and it's Sam LaPorta. If you did that as a rookie and heavy touchdowns, so this was not, this wasn't the Evan Ingram rookie season where it was a PPR thing of, well, I think I can play Evan Ingram. You knew after week 1, I can play LaPorta. I don't have to sit and wait on it anymore. I'll just put him right in there. So to get that player where you drafted him as a rookie, right immediately to the dynasty tight end one, and like most tight ends, had his ebbs and flows. Unfortunately, his worst game of the year was the semifinals. That kind of stings, especially for calling someone the actual MVP. But to get that production, not out of nowhere, but just so improbable for a rookie tight end to come and do that, it's awesome that it's happened.
Yeah. He's about to turn 23 on January 12th.
That's bonkers.
Yeah, to get that so early on. Second round picks, we talk about all the time. The hit rate's not great, and the hit rate's not great with rookie tight ends. And he just said, you know what, I'll put in the tight end one season. So if he's on your team, or I've seen people that said, hey, Sam LaPorta was off to a hot start. I want to trade him for Mark Andrews. And it was LaPorta and something else for Andrews. Like, that stinks because you traded early. You thought like, oh, I could get Andrews.
I don't blame people for doing that.
No, not at all. And it's not like you're looking now and saying, well, Andrews is a lost cause. Now, if Kelce was involved, then you feel terrible.
Yes.
But man, that is incredible. And I agree. Like, Betz, would you put anybody else in the mix? We talked about McBride, but is he the clear tight end one in Dynasty?
I think he is. Just with the age, the fact that he's doing this as a rookie, I think they're going to re-sign Goff or give him an extension. The roster looks pretty set and kind of know what you're getting with LaPorta. So yeah, the red zone role is there, which obviously touchdowns matter a ton when you're talking about tight ends. He's just good, man. Just good at the game. So yeah, Sam LaPorta, I agree. Dynasty tight end one.
I'm going to say that in the leagues that I'm in, and I'm sure for a lot of people, Kyren Williams is a good player. And some would say that he was worth picking in drafts.
Others would not say that.
Some would say that mine and Kyle's lost season would have been a very found season had we drafted Kyren Williams.
Betz, do you want to hear who our 2 running backs would have been for our team?
I would love to hear that.
That went 0 RB, by the way. Like our hero RB. We have
Kyren Williams was the 0 RB pick.
Yeah. Well,
yes.
We didn't even go 0. We went hero because we had Christian McCaffrey. And Mike, with the very last pick, said, hey, what do you think about Kyren Williams? I was like, I don't know. I'm not really a Kyren guy. And also, Mike, I thought we were just said screw RBs, so we don't even need them, right? But Mike was like, no, we do need at least one. So we stashed somebody else in the league of record. But
I think we drafted Jonathan Mingo.
Did we really? Oh, gosh.
Probably.
Oh, man. So Kyren Williams, the RB4, second in the NFL in rushing yards, despite missing weeks 7 through 11. He's averaging 5 yards per carry. And I was curious, in Dynasty, what was his startup ADP before the season?
No.
You ready for this? This will make you feel really bad. Okay. This is according to RotoViz. It was the RB81 in Dynasty startups. Okay. Here are some players taken before Kyren Williams in startups over the summer, all the way up until the kickoff. Chris Rodriguez, who I like Chris Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Bam Knight. James Robinson.
Oh, man.
Zach Moss. Okay. It's not the worst.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But here's the one that's even better. Keontae Ingram.
Yeah,
baby.
That's his boy.
You go get yourself a ring, Keontae. You do it with the Chiefs.
So,
hey, he might get some snaps this weekend, boys.
Is there any lessons to be learned here? Because no one saw Kyren being this good. He was CMC. Let's be honest. Like, his role was basically what CMC was: opportunities, touchdowns. That entire offense, when Kyren was on the field, was awesome. But to me, it was just like, the running back position is so fragile. Guys, he was drafted as the 3rd running back on his own team. right, in dynasty startups, behind Cam Akers, behind Zach Evans. Any lessons right here?
I think that the lessons are, it's especially like just looking at this group of names that you put out there over the offseason, like the Chris Rodriguez drafters, I don't blame them at all. That's trying to be forward thinking of Antonio Gibson won't be on this team more than likely next year, and Rodriguez looks like he could be, a backup. The Bam Knight one, I mean, I don't know where Dalvin Cook was at this time, but that one just is like, what are you doing? James Robinson, don't just because James Robinson had done it before and Kyren Williams had not. James Robinson was on his third or fourth team. I mean, you knew that it was gone. If you watch Keontae Ingram take any snaps of football, you know that he's not a good player.
Allegedly.
So this isn't of course you should have drafted Kyren, but it's looking at these guys, and most of them it can be an immediate hard no. There's just no real path. And then you factor in, okay, situation, offense. Give me an offensive mastermind in Sean McVay. So Chris Rodriguez of Washington, offensive mastermind there? No. The Jets? No. Giants? No. The Colts? Okay, sure. Yeah, I can buy into Steichen. Arizona? No. I mean, so when you're drafting running backs that late, maybe put a little bit more emphasis on who has a proven track record year over year of offensive success.
I think along the same lines too, one of my lessons here is just kind of remembering not to forget the year prior when you're trying to evaluate some of these murky situations. All offseason, it was the talk of, remember what Cam Akers did down the stretch? He was so good for Sean McVay. How can he not be the guy? But even 3 or 4 weeks before that stretch in 2022, he was almost cut from the team, basically.
Oh, he was off the team, like mentally. They said he would never take another snap for the Rams.
And there was some rumors week one of that 2022 season that they wanted Kyren Williams to be the guy. So if you kind of kept that information in the back of your mind and you said, look, if there's anyone here that I'm going to take a shot on and just hope that the market is wrong on Cam Akers, you would have gotten yourself a top 5 running back basically for free. And the other thing, too, I'll say is that when we start to get these little pieces of information and news, especially in July and August when training camp's open, we actually get beat reporters out there with guys in practice, it might feel kind of wrong or dirty to be well, I hear Kyren's getting some buzz, but I don't want to trade a second for him and hope I'm what if I'm wrong? What if you're right? A second round pick, the hit rate is so low anyway. Don't be afraid to kind
draft Sam LaPorta. Betz, what do you think of that?
That's true. That would feel bad.
Tight end one.
That would feel bad. But also, if you do want to be aggressive at that time, and even though you're not getting the quote unquote best price on a guy, you can still have a huge profit return. This example highlights that perfectly.
I mean, we have the benefit of hindsight analysis when we look at Kyren Williams. It's really hard when you look at players that we evaluate from college and we say, I like this player. They didn't test this. Or I like this player's production profile. So his is this weird mix of, I know you and Jason were really big on him, and then he was slow. I think Betz made the joke, he's still running the 40.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Betz, he heard that. He took that personally.
Hey, as someone who was able to scoop him up after week 2 in a home league, I love that I ignited that fire in Kyren. He's doing it for us.
Yeah, he just looked awesome. All right, next award is To the Moon Award. Which player gained the most value in Dynasty? In other words, next year in Dynasty startups, these players are going to go way higher. And there's lots of different candidates for this. Betz, you go first.
Yeah, nothing that you haven't heard before on this show. Trey McBride, who I love the exercise of looking back the year prior and seeing where was this guy valued? In single quarterback leagues, this is from RotoViz, from May until August, so basically the kind of peak offseason of drafting, Trey McBride in Dynasty was going as the tight end 19 in the 14th round of a startup. Basically just I'll take him and hope maybe he can be something. From week 8 on, when he became the dude after Zach Ertz was injured and then gone, 8.8 targets per game, 5th in catches per game. That among all players, not just tight ends, was 11th in the NFL. And that is just unreal to think about. Zoom out a little bit. Not just tight ends in the NFL. He's a wide receiver for this team. He finished as a tight end 5 and half PPR points per game. Just one of those guys that, like you said, was kind of unheard of. Didn't really think you had anything in him, and now is a top 3 option at the position.
Well, we were very excited for Trey McBride when he got drafted, but it was the fact that in his first year, the team just kept putting Zach Ertz out on the field, and this was Ertz hadn't been hurt yet, so this is but he's still a pretty washed version of Zach Ertz, taking all the snaps. Like, how can a young athletic Trey McBride not get on the field? And then this year starts, and it's, hey, maybe we'll see if Trey McBride can do something. Zach Ertz just demolished his knee last year. There's no way he's ready. Oh, Zach Ertz is ready to play, and you're going to force him out there? So it was huge excitement for the player, but the fact that he couldn't get on the field was a red flag. And who maybe in a year we'll go, oh, we should have paid attention to that red flag that he couldn't get on the field. But the fact that whenever he got on the field, he would perform. It was very, very exciting. And halfway through the year, I remember on the Main Footballers podcast, people were asking, what's the dynasty outlook for Trey McBride? And it was, at that time, you are clinging on to just a couple fibers to stop you from falling into the pit of you're worth absolutely nothing. And then Ertz got hurt, and hey, well, look, Trey McBride's a really good player. Turns out the first tight end drafted that year in a second round pick should have been on the field the whole time. So now it's wheels up, very excited, to the moon for Team McBee.
Yeah, I was thinking about this. He's probably going to be a 4th, 5th round pick in PPR leagues. Like, he's going to be
probably.
He's probably going to be a top 5 tight end. Like, do you think he's drafted ahead of George Kittle in redraft leagues?
Ooh.
I do.
Definitely some leagues.
In PPR leagues, I can definitely see it. Mike,
yeah,
you have a cartoon character for your next one.
A man who hates the ground with such fury. It is Isaiah Pacheco, running back for the Kansas City Chiefs. We entered the year, Pacheco took the job as a rookie, but it was still really inconsistent for fantasy purposes because it was Patrick Mahomes' team. And despite not having pass catchers, Patrick Mahomes was having a fantastic year, getting it done for fantasy. And you came into 2023 drafting Pacheco I hope I have a running back too. Maybe they'll give him some more goal line carries. And right away, he was the guy. And then he morphed into the offense. I don't think anyone could have projected that the Kansas City Chiefs with Mahomes and Andy Reid would turn into, Pacheco is the engine that is keeping the Kansas City Chiefs on track. If Pacheco missed this year, let's say he went down to an injury early on, the Chiefs would be a complete disaster because he's the bright spot for the offense, as seen in Week 17 when he destroyed the Cincinnati Bengals. So it's a solidified, I think it's his job. This year he was still a 7th round guy where we've seen, not what 7th rounder, he was undrafted, but James Robinson comes in, sets the league on fire, and then injured. Thank you for your service. Never seen again. So there was still the chance that Pacheco could lose his job. They go to more of a platoon, but it's his job. This team looks more willing to rely on the run. I'm assuming that they will reload with pass catchers this offseason, and that will change some of that narrative. But the fact that he's the guy and they're willing to go to him by the goal line, I think he has climbed up dramatically in terms of running back rankings.
Yeah, he looks like he's probably in that top 15 dynasty range.
That makes sense.
And the only name that I caution with, I was just thinking back, okay, who else has kind of been a day 3 running back that balled out year 2, and the next year it's Ramondre Stevenson is very similar story where it's he took over slowly. You saw glimpses his rookie year, balled out his second year, and then we were drafting him in Dynasty.
That's interesting.
As a top 15. Now, obviously, we're not just saying that's going to happen here, but moving forward, I just look at Ramondre and be I guess it would be fine, but going into year 4, I'm not excited about Ramondre like I was going to year 3.
Yeah.
So there's just more factors, but yeah, he's definitely climbed from where he was. I'll quickly throw out Jordan Love because
Nice.
if you had him on your roster, you thought, I guess he's on my team. Like you didn't really think he was going to be a factor. He's QB5 on the season, 30 passing touchdowns, 4 rushing touchdowns. He is one of the quarterbacks that Jeremy and I have on our rebuilding team. He fits our timeline perfectly. And, you know, that we're going to see what they do contract-wise. Like they gave him a weird contract where it was just like, we'll see for 1 year, the second year, but he's played good enough to, you know, like get a crazy extension. He's been awesome. I looked this up from PFF since week 11. He's tied for the most passing touchdowns in the league. He has 1 interception, which was his bugaboo for a while at the beginning of the year, just turnovers, but he's been really great. My question is, in a super flex league, do you think people are excited enough to go in on him, or is there still question marks?
I think the
what
general...
I like... go ahead, Betz.
I was going to say just the general public kind of, I think, feeling around Jordan Love is that it's still an uncertain situation. Because when you looked at kind of entering the year, it was like Kyle said, everyone was like, well, whatever, like I'll just keep him on my bench and we'll see what happens. And now you're like, man, QB5 feels like he maybe overperformed. I could see the public kind of pulling back a little bit on the excitement that we have right now when we kind of turn the page to really the 2024 offseason. But there's a lot to be excited about. I'm going to talk about that team later on in the show, spoiler alert. But I'm excited about what they have done, and I think they built around him just in a super smart way where, like Kyle said, they weren't committed to him, kind of made him prove it, and if it did work out, they have 1 more year of just insane flexibility that, again, if it fails next year, like the Packers are not tied to him. So I think the way that they did it is really well done, and I'm super excited about his weapons and his pass catchers right now.
Yeah, I like the show, our show's stance on Jordan Love, you know, talking to Dynasty wise and even redraft was we're going to get to know right away. Is Jordan Love capable in playing in the NFL? Because the Packers had done such a good job surrounding him with talent, and then it ends up they did an even better job than we had first estimated. So it was nice to see that it hit on the positive side, and yeah, QB5 may be a little bit overperforming, especially when you factor in like Kirk Cousins was on track. Kirk Cousins would have been a top 5 quarterback. Joe Burrow probably ends up as a top 5 quarterback. Like there was so many injuries around the league at the quarterback position that he's kind of artificially inflated. But I'm not saying that to say I'm out. Like Jordan Love feels like a top 15ish to at least top 15, if not a top 12 guy going forward. So if you have him, I imagine the market is not strong enough to trade him, and you might even be able to go trade for him still of what is not his actual value. It's just his perceived public value.
Yeah, because if he's on your team, likely you didn't go into the year thinking, this guy's going to be my starter.
Right.
For your team. So in a Dynasty Superflex League, you're probably super happy as a QB2. We also got to see some rushing this year. Like he didn't run a ton at Utah State, but 4 rushing touchdowns is nice. It's kind of like Geno had that outlier season last year at QB5, and you're like, is that going to regress? I think with Love, he's younger, the weapons are younger. We can be excited about that. Let's take 1 more break, and we'll be right back.
You need a vehicle that can meet your family's needs, and Toyota has you covered. Introducing the first ever Grand Highlander, a midsize SUV with the ideal combination of space, performance, style, and advanced tech. The roomy Grand Highlander never makes you choose between passengers and cargo. You can fit both with ease. With 3 spacious rows and available seating for up to 8, and legroom that makes even long trips comfortable. With Grand Highlander's available 362 horsepower hybrid max powertrain unlimited and platinum trims, you can be confident you have the power, acceleration, and efficiency needed for almost any adventure your family can cook up. And you'll get where you're going in style with a modern, spacious cabin that's perfect for both playdates and date nights. Impressive tech upgrades take the new Grand Highlander to the next level, including a standard digital key, an available panoramic view mirror, and a 12.3-inch multimedia touchscreen. Don't just live life grander in the first ever Toyota Grand Highlander. Learn more at toyota.com/Grand Highlander.
Whether you're cheering on your favorite team or hosting a movie night, DiGiorno knows planning a winning watch party on a budget isn't easy. You need the perfect setting, the perfect squad, the perfect eats, and the perfect plan to keep everyone pumped all night long. So why would you fumble the play by ordering delivery? The wait times, the fees, the cold food, it can't outdo the delicious fresh-baked taste of DiGiorno Classic Crust Pizza, especially on game night. No, you need to draw up the perfect plan. Luckily, you're a game time mastermind, and you know that grabbing a DiGiorno Classic Crust Pizza is one call that brings home a W. With half a pound of cheese, sauce, and other toppings at an incredible price, it's your game day MVP, most valuable pizza. So are you ready for a big W at your next watch party? Don't take any chances. Make the right call and grab a DiGiorno Classic Crust Pizza from the grocery store today. It's not delivery, it's DiGiorno.
A couple more Dynasty Awards. We'll move a little bit quicker through these. The first one, I'm calling the Holy Crap What Happened Award, presented by FTX Cryptocurrency.
Well, I mean, I can tell you what happened there.
They were a cheap sponsor, let me tell you. They said anywhere you can mention our name, but no, it's not a good thing. It's which player lost the most value in Dynasty, aka next year in startups. They are doo-doo compared to what they were this past year. So Betz, you go first in. It's probably my saddest Dynasty story.
Oh, man.
From this year.
And I just feel bad because I remember after like week 4, week 5, we talked about Jahan Dotson and we said, what's happening? Like, what are we doing? And I think my advice on the show at that time was, look, this is such a small sample. He flashed.
Yeah.
Trade a late second or whatever for him and just take the risk. Well, that looks like a swing and a miss because the dude has done nothing and literally nothing. We collectively have a wager on him to go over 50.5 catches this year. And Mike, you put it in our Slack last week. You're like, we only need 4 catches over the last 2 weeks.
Oh, no. And he had none. Oh,
0 last week. So
stupid. We were set to. We had Jacoby Brissett coming in to save us.
Tweaked his hammy, ruined it all.
Oh,
but the underlying numbers are just downright awful. 0.83 yards per route run. There have been 112 wide receivers this year that have seen at least 25 targets. Dotson is 102, 102nd in yards per route run. That is just not good. And when you look at kind of some other advanced statistics, ESPN's open score is one that I think does a pretty good job of just like tracking, can this guy create separation with his routes? It doesn't tell you much about the quarterback player or any of that kind of stuff. Just takes that out and says, is this guy getting open? The answer is no. He is 82nd, tied with Sky Moore among 98 wide receivers tracked. And we're talking about Pop Douglas, Darnell Mooney, Jalen Tolbert, Alec Pierce, Quentin Johnston, Alan Lazard. Those are the names around him on this list.
No.
So from what I think we thought we were getting to what we actually got, like the two could not be more different. So value has completely fallen out.
You have to hold, right? You don't.
If you
Can't
have
do
him,
anything else.
Okay.
yeah, you're going to trade him for a third.
No.
Yes, you hold on to Dotson because I mean, just looking at the way that Terry McLaurin's season has gone as well, Sam Howell was just empty calories of somehow he's accumulating all this passing yardage. He's not winning games.
Did you just call
and
him
he's
fat?
not. No, I called him empty calories. I'm saying like his production was meaningless.
Doritos.
Oh, but Doritos are delicious.
They
So
are.
we cannot compare him to that. But you got to hold on. Washington could be one of the highest turnovers in the league, I think, after this. Like, they have the second overall pick right now, so they are. I mean, maybe Chicago tricks them into moving up to number 1, but even if they don't, they're still taking a quarterback, and it will likely be a new coaching staff. So the fingers will remain crossed that they go hard in the paint after an offensive-minded coach. Go get someone who's proven for offense. Get your quarterback in. You've got Terry. You've got Dotson. I think you can reboot that offense faster than what it looks like is having the second overall pick.
I'll jump in real quick and just say, here's a wide receiver that, much like Dotson, has done nothing. This player had as many top 24 finishes as Betz and Mike combined this year. Okay? So
Shout out to us.
I didn't see y'all's game logs, but it didn't look pretty good. It's Jerry Jeudy. Guys, Jerry Jeudy was being drafted in Dynasty startups as the wide receiver 20 this summer.
Oh,
okay?
no.
What if I told you that Jerry Jeudy was being drafted in Dynasty startups ahead of DJ Moore, Debo Samuel, Brendan Ayuk, and Pity City?
Oh, no.
What if I also told you that Denver has already exercised his 5th-year option?
Oh,
So,
no.
this next year, he will be getting paid, I looked it up, 14 times as much as Puka Nacua.
How did they not trade him?
I don't.
I mean,
So-
maybe no one actually came in with a realistic offer, but
Jerry Jeudy, it's sad, but it's just a bust pick. It's going to be somebody on your team that next year they're going to get a new quarterback, and who knows what the offense is going to look like, but he did nothing this year. He scored a touchdown that one time in that 1 week. So there's that. But yeah, he's now a wide receiver 5 on your dynasty roster that's doing nothing. I was super fortunate in a league to trade him after, I think, 2 or 3 weeks, and we got a first and something else for him, which feels like stealing at this point.
that is grand theft.
It's in the dynasty league that you are in, Mike. We did well.
I didn't trade for him.
No, never.
Dude,
All right,
Jeudy is one of those guys that I feel like it was like cool to be in on Jeudy this past summer,
Oh, yeah.
which Kyle was.
Whoa, best ball. So in on best ball, so out everywhere else.
And
right?
man, just like this is kind of like the Kyren thing where it was like they had rumblings that they really liked this guy. The writing was on the wall. They did not like this guy. Like there was like 2 or 3 instances over the last year and a half of like, he's on the trade block. He's on the trade block. Like we're trying to trade him. So it just kind of was one of those things like maybe we should pay attention to that stuff a little bit more than we already do. It's just kind of a thought process for moving forward. But what's funny is this past weekend, when Cortland Sutton didn't clear protocol, Kyle and I were talking about the DFS slate, and I texted Kyle. I was like, "Dude, the Jeudy bros are going to be insufferable when he goes 5 for 56 and no touchdown." And he didn't even do that. So, yeah, man, I'm not a fan.
It was Lil Jordan. That's who.
I was always Lil Jordan.
Dude, that touchdown was big Jordan.
Dude, he broke like 5 tackles and said,
Yeah, he
"I'm
did.
scoring on this play." Mike,
That was awesome.
you have a player
Yeah.
that, when I think back to this year, there'll be many players. I think, Kyren will be a big name. Puka will be a big name that years from now will be like, "Oh, remember that year?" He might be the running back, the most disappointing running back in fantasy football.
Yeah, because he would have been the consensus RB2 off of draft boards. Pour one out for our guy, our dude, friend of the show, Austin Eckler. Somehow only the running back 29. Like, I would have thought it would be lower than that, but a career low in yards per carry. Here's the kicker. 6 total finishes inside the top 24 last year. 3 total finishes outside of the top 24. A complete inverse performance by Austin Eckler, unfortunately. Week 1, it looked like it was going to be great. Then you had the ankle problem. You had the now infamous clip of him breaking free and running 13 miles an hour, which I saw him talk about that on his pod with Harmon. And he had talked about, just how taped up his ankles were. He's like, I couldn't run any faster. But then he was also, the way he was talking about his future of just how unknown it is. And he sounded like a guy who is very open to coming back and playing football for the right amount of money. He also kind of sounded like a guy who is open to not returning to football if the amount of money that he feels like he deserves, or the amount of money it would take for him to put his body through all that again. So he's really up in the air. And I mean, I haven't heard, at least in the circles that, I'm involved in, I haven't heard people talking about Austin Eckler retiring, because it sounds wild, but I don't think it's completely off the table for
I
him.
agree.
I mean, he's 28. Is he 28, Kyle? Do I have that right?
I think so. Let me make sure.
Go double check that, but he's that age. I mean, look at
28.6.
Yeah, so he'll be turning 29 if he plays another year. The age cliff for running backs is very, very real. You'll have a couple outliers here or there, but that's what they are. They're called outliers. Look at Dalvin Cook. I think Twitter was probably pretty split on this, but there were people who were fired up that the Vikings cut Dalvin Cook. And they thought, what is this idiot team doing? Dalvin Cook is great. He should be your running back. He goes out and he gets a huge pile of cash from the New York Jets to be their running back 2, possibly their running back 1 while they wait for Breece Hall to be healthy. And that was a disaster. In fact, I mean, Dalvin Cook has now been released. Maybe they're trying to do him a solid that he can jump on a playoff team to be a depth piece. But Kyle you just pulled up some numbers. A tweet from Lindsey Rhodes. Success rate, 25.4%, the 4th lowest. Negative 0.37 EPA per rush. Explosive rush percentage, the 4th lowest, and the first 2 are quarterbacks. I mean, when it's gone for these football players, especially at the running back position, it's gone. And it's every single time it happens, it's a sad, harsh truth, because these are our superheroes that we fall in love with. And Austin Eckler, his whole story of undrafted to all of a sudden he's better than first-round pick Melvin Gordon, and then he's a fantasy running back superstar. He gets the community. We all love Austin Eckler, but that maybe he was just so hurt, and he'll be okay next year, okay-ish, but it seems like it's done. And this is why we always talk about when running backs are getting to that age, sometimes it is better to just be a year early and trade them away and get your true jackpot haul, and then just grit your teeth and watch them be awesome the next year. Because knowing that if you hold on to the bag too long, like if you had traded Austin Eckler this past offseason, you could have got so much for Austin Eckler from a championship team. Now, can you even get – you definitely can't get a first for him. Maybe you could get a second. Maybe.
I've tried.
But it's sad. It's sad.
He has a life outside of football, like Mike mentioned, that you can see, like, okay, if he retired, it makes total sense because, the punishment on a human playing this game, you get to a certain point where you're like, hey, you know what? Like, I don't have to do this anymore, and there's opportunities. So he's right. I do appreciate that he's positioned himself outside of football to be able to still make some money.
And we hope he's super successful. It's just for this year, all the people that drafted him are like, what the heck, man?
Before we sign off, you were just talking, like, is there a name that comes to mind for you guys that would be good advice for folks as soon as their dynasty trade window opens back up, or if it already is, a running back that you would say,
that's it,
the end is coming, let's make the move now instead of next year when we have this exact situation?
Okay, so I was thinking about this. Joe Mixon was the first name.
Joe Mixon was the first name that popped into my head.
What about Alvin Kamara?
Yeah, if you can.
Yeah, if you're not contending next year, the time is now, I think.
What about Saquon?
He's so tough, man, because he's not, I don't think he's technically at the age cliff. Well, he'll be turning 27, so he'll be pretty close. And you don't know what team he's on. So he's very, very, very difficult to gauge for fantasy football.
Yeah.
Like I over this season, I could have traded 2 2025 firsts essentially for Barkley, and I mean, I went through it. Okay, I'm doing this for sure. Didn't click accept. Gave myself some time to think about it. Completely talked myself out of it. Completely talked myself back into it. Then out of it. It was wild because you just like, what if he ends up on a even worse situation? And a worse situation, I mean, a team that won't throw him the ball, where this won't happen, right? But like, he goes to the Baltimore Ravens, and on the surface, that will be like, holy crap, yes. Saquon Barkley on this offense, he's going to score so many points, which he could get a bunch of touchdowns, but that passing work, which this year was 58 targets despite missing 3 games earlier in the year, those evaporate.
Yeah, Lamar's not going to give him that.
So the unknown of where he is going prevents him from being like, I think, a really high ranked dynasty running back. But yeah, if he's on that verge that it might be the year before getting out 1 year early for Barkley. So I don't blame people who want to trade him out. It's ridiculous how much and how quick you have to reload on running backs. Because I'm celebrating over here with Kenneth Walker, and I'll blink, and that era is going to be done.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, I just want to quickly go through one more award. We're just going to throw out a team real quick. It's a team effort award, and then in the implications for Dynasty. So I picked the Texans. Biggest surprise for me.
Oh, yeah.
Their offensive rankings everywhere across the board. Like last year, 32nd in plays per drive, 31st in first downs, 30th in turnovers. Yeah. They were bad. Guys, they're like top 15 in everything. They're number 1 in the league in terms of limiting turnovers on offense. Like that's wild with a rookie quarterback. So we'll be talking about Stroud and Tank Dell next week when we do our rookie review. But Nico Collins is just the name I want to throw out. It's crazy to see a player in year 3 that's kind of was like, he's big and there's some deep balls that maybe he'll get. But he's transformed into being a legit player, 2.81 yards per route run. He was the wide receiver 60 in startups. Like there's no chance you could have talked me into Nico Collins in startups back in July. I didn't see the path. I didn't. And so I was way wrong. This team has a ton of money, $74 million in cap space. And I think free agents will want to go there. Singletary's a free agent. Dalton Schultz is a free agent. So they have something brewing. And I'm just excited about that team moving forward.
Yeah, I'll jump in here. Talk about the Packers real quick. We already talked about Jordan Love. 7th in EPA per play, 4th in ADOT. So he is giving you upside and consistency. And this offense, 11th in scoring, 9th in yards per play, 8th in EPA per play. And that was all this year without Christian Watson for most of the year. And Aaron Jones basically missed the entire season. What Jordan Love has done.
Ooh, Jones is another good. Should trade him.
Yes. What Jordan Love has done, and really Matt LaFleur with this group, very impressive stuff considering that they hit on their rookies. I mean, they smashed their draft class this year, and really last year they hit on Romeo Doubs, who, I think is a pretty good wide receiver 3 to 2-ish range for an NFL team. But you hit on Jaden Reed. Dontavian Wicks can play. You hit on not just one of the rookie tight ends, but you probably hit on both of them. They look like good players. So you've got this young nucleus of players around Jordan Love, and if Christian Watson can get healthy, throw him into this lineup. This offense looks really fun moving forward for the next year or two. So I'm excited about what Green Bay has done.
Don't forget Bo Melton.
The GOAT?
Dude, Bo. You don't know Bo.
Who is, I will put a wager out, probably on your Dino waiver wire. And also probably worth picking up as a nasty boy. Who knows?
All right, Mike, hit us with the final offense. All
right. It's the Baltimore Ravens, where I think of any change in an offensive philosophy that we were actually really excited for, and I'm speaking like the three of us on this show, we were so pumped for the Baltimore Ravens, so pumped that they got the old, busted, high T, slow, grinded out 1950s version of football. They got that out. They bring in Todd Monken, who's known for pace of play, airing it out. And we were excited for like all the pieces in this offense for fantasy football. Lamar just coming off got that huge contract after the insanity of the offseason. Kyle, how's that feel that going back on that, where like Atlanta immediately said that they have no interest in Lamar Jackson?
Well, Taylor Heineke was out there, so we thought that maybe that. No, what idiots! Come on, give Lamar his money. I'm glad that all of us were so pro Ravens this year in so many different ways. So many, like every single sphere, DFS, betting, dynasty. It's just like. But you bring up this point here in the notes, Mike. Like,
yeah, and it started really rough.
Yeah,
and it was one of those, and at the time it was, well, maybe we're wrong, and it's because the NFL season is so short and you have to be so fast to react or you miss out on things. It was, oh, well, the people who bet against the Ravens, it looks like they were right. It's a whole team learning a brand new offense. Let's give them some time to work it out, because especially weeks 3 through 6, it was bad, like real bad, not just for fantasy. I guess Lamar was still putting up points, but the offense was not clicking. And then starting week 7 through the championship run, 34 points per game. That's what the team was scoring. It can still be a little bit frustrating for fantasy because sometimes it's Lamar. Sometimes it was those games where it's Gus Edwards getting 6 carries, but 3 of them are touchdowns. Zay Flowers, some huge games, half the season just absolutely disappeared. Sometimes it's Isaiah Likely coming through. So this is a team that you should be excited about and be thankful that you have pieces of, but also realizing that it will be bumpy. It'll even be bumpy next year because they're so loaded, and the way that how dynamic Lamar is and plays the quarterback position, it just turns into real huge ebbs and flows for where the fantasy points are going. But at least the offense came through big time.
Yeah, for sure. It's wild to think that Lamar is the locked-in MVP favorite right now. When you look at his counting stats and you go, they're not close to his MVP year, but like Mike was saying, it's some weeks it's Gus Edwards scoring 3 touchdowns. Sometimes it's the defense. So it's going to be a little bit frustrating sometimes. But man, what a fun team to jump on board with, except for Rashad Bateman. He doesn't exist. But that's going to do it for this episode. Next week, we will be doing a rookie review. So talking about all those players, looking back at rookie drafts and everything that you did. So we will see you again next week on Fantasy Footballers Dynasty Podcast. Enjoy your championships, people.
Yes, indeed, I will, Kyle. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to the Fantasy Footballers Dynasty Podcast. If you want to take your dynasty skills to the next level, check out thefantasyfootballers.com.
Introducing the first ever Grand Highlander, a mid-size SUV with the ideal combination of space, performance, style, and advanced tech. The roomy Grand Highlander boasts 3 spacious rows with available seating for up to 8. Its available 362 horsepower hybrid max powertrain unlimited and platinum trims delivers the power, acceleration, and efficiency so your family can take on any adventure. There's even a standard digital key, a panoramic view mirror, and a 12.3-inch multimedia touchscreen, so you always arrive on time. Live life grander in the first ever Toyota Grand Highlander. Learn more at toyota.com/Grand Highlander.